I'm Jamie. I'll be your host for this evening, and really excited to have Caleb on from PXG. We're really excited because you guys have just released a new line of long game clubs, and I've done my best to kind of resist actually going through and reading about it because I knew we had this on the books and scheduled. So I'm excited to learn a lot about the clubs from you. So I'm going to turn it over to you for a second here and get you to go over who you are, what you do at PXG, and maybe a little bit of insight to kick off about the clubs.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. My name is Caleb Krolloff. I'm the director of Woods R&D here at PXG. I've been at PXG for about 10 years now. Been in the golf industry for a little bit longer than that, a few years before that as well. But I lead our Woods team, do all of our driver design, and then my team works through all of the fairway wood and hybrid design as well. From conception to product release, we are kind of a smaller engineering department. So we kind of handle it the whole way through from concept all the way to the detail work and production. So, it's kind of when we have a new product like that, it's kind of our baby. So really, really excited about our recent launch that you were talking about, the Lightning Woods. Set of 4 different drivers with 3 different head shapes. We have the Max 10K model being the biggest, most forgiving, the Tour Mid being sort of a combo of forgiveness and distance oriented club, the Tour, which is a little more smaller head shape, low spin, and then the Max Light, which sort of mimics the same head shape as the Max, but in a much lighter head weight, so 14 grams lighter. We're a custom fitting company from the start. It's sort of part of our DNA, something we really, really want to always incorporate into every product. So it's something that, we're always trying to push to have more options, fit more people. So I have with me here, sticker on there still. There's the Lightning Tour. So the smaller of the 3 head shapes, but overall really the same technology throughout them. We, with this line, really wanted to take what we learned from our previous generation in Black Ops, which we felt like was our most successful, most well-received product line of woods ever, and take the things that it did really well and then look for the areas where we were like, let's refine, let's iterate, and let's improve upon those. So Black Ops, really, really great forgiveness. It was great on distance from a high launch, low spin characteristic category. So people were able to launch it high with relatively low spin, get distance. The area we saw that we felt we had room for improvement was really ball speed. And that was really the whole focus of the Lightning project. So we spent, the 2 years between Black Ops and Lightning just looking for ball speed any way we could, without giving up those other characteristics that we thought did well. And I say without giving them up because generally speaking, those 2 things work against each other. The easiest way to gain ball speed is pushing the CG farther, closer to the face. Club delivers with less dynamic loft, with more speed. But that being said, if you push the CG more forward, you're getting less forgiving. You're generally low spin, low launch, and it's, doesn't benefit most golfers. So we were looking for ways to gain speed without giving up that forgiveness and that great high launch, low spin. And what we came up with was what we call a frequency tuned face. And the idea came from a lot of testing and a lot of kind of digging into and correlating different head shapes with our robot results. So we tried to basically quantify everything we could about a bunch of different head shapes and designs, prototypes we've had, models we've had, competitor models, and look for, hey, what's correlating with speed? And what we found was the way the head vibrates, what we call the modal frequency, or like the natural frequency of the club, was correlated with ball speed performance. And so what we did was take what's called the modal frequency, or it's kind of the dominant frequency of the head, and we had to stiffen the sole a lot because that's usually where those frequencies occur. And we tried to push it up to the face, and we tried to get it in a proper zone. So when it's vibrating at the proper rate, it matches up with how long the golf ball is on the face, or kind of that interaction of impacts happening. And so the face is both deflecting and then it's vibrating. So we tried to sync up that vibration so that it's adding in a little bit of extra ball speed, a little extra deflection that's kind of synced up with that moment of impact. And so what we found was we gained somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 mile an hour to 2 miles an hour, depending on the club head speed in our robot testing, just through fine-tuning that vibration, moving into the face. So to do that, the most noticeable potentially difference in head shape is this spine on the sole. And that serves to really stiffen the sole. So there's a ton of carbon fiber. It's a lot bigger than the carbon fiber on Black Ops. It's, I believe, 84% more carbon fiber compared to Black Ops on the Max model. And first of all, carbon fiber is very, very stiff relative to its weight. But also that spine feature is adding stiffness through geometry without adding weight. The easiest way we like to explain it is if you think of a just sheet of paper that's just a normal piece of printer paper. If you take it on both ends and you just flex it, it's going to kind of just fold however it wants to. If you put a crease through the center of it and let it kind of sit as a kind of V shape and try to do the same thing, it's going to be a lot stiffer. It's not going to want to bend. So that spine is doing the same thing. It's stopping the sole from wanting to bend from front to back and creates a lot of stiffness, which helped us to push that frequency to the face. So that's the big technology, I would say, on the Lightning drivers. It's produced a lot of ball speed without giving up any of those other characteristics. And we're able to keep our adjustable weighting system. So it's a ton of forgiveness, a ton of distance, but still very versatile, very fittable, and a lot of adjustment that can be made.
So is there a lot of the Black Ops DNA still in the Lightning series?
Absolutely. One of the cool things I like about working at PXG and kind of the way we work is we have a little more freedom to iterate and not necessarily have everything working towards, this is the roadmap and here's the product that's going to be released next year, the next year, the next year, and so on. We have a little more flexibility. We'll scream it from the mountaintops that we're not going to come out with something unless it's better and like noticeably better in performance. So with Black Ops, we had our production Black Ops and our Tour 1 model. And the reason it's not just called Tour, but Tour 1 is we made a Tour 2, a Tour 3, a 4, and a 5. Yeah. And those were things we were iterating with tour players and testing. And so those models, we were, going, hang on, what if we took Black Ops and did this? What if we changed the face size, the shape, some of those different aspects of the club, and kind of worked with them to learn. And we took a lot of those learnings and helped them to kind of create the Lightning driver. So we had some of those in play on the PGA Tour. And then, those players are moving into Lightning pretty quickly because they see that similarity and the gains they saw on those prototypes in Lightning. But definitely even just looking at the head, there's a lot of characteristics of Black Ops. I think we made a substantial gain, and we're very proud of the gains in ball speed and even improving the forgiveness over Black Ops that we had in Lightning. But, I think not just the DNA of Black Ops, but PXG's DNA as a whole is just, our weight system, putting in as much as we possibly can in terms of carbon fiber and, not leaving anything out, or for next gen, that's for us to figure out later, it is really something we pride ourselves in and, trying to make sure we push forward. But it's definitely an iteration and an improvement, but not a scrap and start over in terms of going from Black Ops to Lightning.
For sure. And so you have carbon fiber, that's obvious. What are the other materials that are used in the Lightning? We'll say just for driver for right now.
So for the driver, titanium head, we have a titanium face insert that is a super high strength titanium material that we've gone through and tested every titanium material we could possibly find, different alloys with different characteristics. To try and figure out what works best. So it's titanium on the face and the body, but the face is actually a different alloy of titanium that's proprietary that we don't share. But it's something we found helps produce a lot of flex. And whenever we're talking about more face flexure, it's not just more speed, because obviously on drivers, we're at the USJ limit on CT, but more face flexing means higher launch, lower spin. So we're always looking to increase that flex as much as possible. Obviously, a ton of carbon fiber in both the crown and the sole. We have our hosel sleeve, which is made out of aluminum. And then in terms of the weight, so like the different models come with different stock weights, but we have 2.5 gram weights that are kind of the light plugs that are titanium, up to 20 gram weights that are tungsten. So we're able in every 2.5 gram increment to make those weights that fit in. So we have a huge range of adjustability in terms of overall head weight, as well as on the Lightning. The Max and the Tour Mid have a 15 gram in the back and 2.5. So a lot of mass that can move around the head to adjust ball flight characteristics.
Awesome. And the sleeve is the same PXG sleeve as it has been for.
Yeah.
Have you actually ever changed your sleeve, or is it still the original?
We've never changed it. And a lot of that is just, it works really well. We find between the sleeve and the weighting system, we're able to achieve a lot. It's a wide range of loft and lie settings, and that paired with the different lofts we have available, you're able to overlap from head to head, where the 9 can get to 10.5 and the 10.5 can get to 9. So there's a lot of kind of different settings or different ways you can get there in terms of loft. But the backwards compatibility has always been something that consumers ask for, and we get that it's frustrating to get if you have a few shafts with PXG tips to then have them not work or have to retip them.
Yeah.
So we've stuck with the same one if it works.
For sure. I think when we first posted that we were going to be doing this live Q&A, one of the questions, and we've thankfully had several members that are fairly familiar with PXG and kind of how you guys work, but one of the questions that kept coming up was, how does this product help your fitters? And in particular, how can this, if you go into a PXG store and want to be fit for it, how can the Lightning series kind of elevate maybe that fitting experience?
I think one of the main things that has elevated the fitting experience with Lightning compared to Black Ops is the addition of an extra head shape. So with Black Ops, we had the Black Ops model, which was very, very forgiving, and I would say aired closer to being a max type of category driver. And then we had the Tour 1, which was very, very low spin, and they were pretty far apart in terms of launch characteristics. But with the adjustable weighting, you can move weight front to back and heel to toe. You could get pretty close on them, so you could kind of reach somewhere in the middle. What we found was, and this was a lot of feedback from customers, from fitters, one of the really nice things about the way we work in terms of like our do business is we have retail stores, especially here in the US. We have our mobile fitters. So we interact with the customer directly a lot and get to hear a lot from our fitters that, I'm getting feedback from them as an engineer saying, hey, a lot of people are saying this or that. But what our fitters told us was that, people would come in and there was an automatic, hey, you're a Black Ops guy, or hey, you're a Tour 1 guy. And then it's really, because that fit their game, you didn't get a lot of option in terms of head shape and preference. So we added that Tour Mid model in between, which creates some overlap. I think a lot of players who say you need a little bit more moderate spin, you're probably going to be in, the Max as your initial thought, but hey, that Tour Mid probably could work for you as well. So all of a sudden we can make the adjustments as a fitter, but also to what fits your eye. And it's something, we've done in irons for a long time, where we have our TP, XP models, what fits your eye in terms of size, in terms of offset, in terms of top line, blade length. Well, now in drivers, it's going, okay, if you're someone who maybe would benefit from a little more spin or a little higher launch, but you tend to prefer something smaller, then maybe that Max driver isn't going to work for you. We have that mid option. So, and same thing on the other side. If you need to kill spin, but you don't like the look of a smaller driver head, that Tour Mid comes in an option. So it's just adding versatility in terms of head options. And then there's more mass that can get moved around. Black Ops had a 12.5 and then 2.5s in it, so you could adjust. Now we're up to a 15. So a little bit more movement in terms of how far the CG can go in the extremes, which, you can still reach anywhere intermediate with the weighting system, but also kind of a wider spread to reach more people.
Awesome. We have a couple questions in the chat here, and it's not Lightning related, but it's mini driver related.
Okay.
So I feel like this fits in with it because we'll get into the fairways and the hybrids in a second here.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
golf squatch. Any hints on a follow up to the best mini driver in golf in the secret weapon? And then Papa Three Putts said, I wanted to ask that, but was scared because his is being ordered tomorrow and didn't want to hear about something potentially new when he's going to be buying his. So obviously embargoes and all that, you don't have to say anything, but I guess if I'm going to try and flip this question into something that you'll probably be able to answer, was there anything from Secret Weapon that was taken and kind of put into or inspired the Lightning series at any point?
Well, I'm happy that people like Secret Weapon. I think it's an awesome club. I think
Yeah.
mini drivers are cool because they're something that have existed, but that people, especially when it was just, more, we've come a long way into custom fitting, trying things on ranges, trying things in stores where it used to be sitting on a rack. And I think they didn't catch on because, people weren't familiar with them. And it's like, where does that fit in my bag? Does it replace a driver? Does it replace a 3-wood? So I love kind of seeing it take off on tour and then take off in public and people enjoying it. I'd say that the Secret Weapon, I think more than anything, we learned from it a lot about kind of on a bigger club face, or a bigger club head, how we can, how turf interaction works. There's a lot that goes into, with drivers, the size of the leading edge. We can cheat, like people talk about, if you're really getting into it, the nitty gritty center of gravity.
I love this. This is great.
Okay. So when we talk about center of gravity, a lot of times in golf, we talk about it to the neutral axis, or basically an axis that is normal to the loft. So like going straight through the club, kind of in that plane, and how high it is relative to the loft, or normal to the loft there. And from face center. And so the easiest way to adjust that as a designer is to change where the face is. So you can move the face up, you can make the face taller, and do all sorts of things. For example, on Lightning, the tour driver is a deeper face. So they're all 460 in terms of looks, or in terms of, the actual volume, where the tour looks a lot smaller from top profile, but it's a deeper face, and the tour mid lives somewhere in the middle. Because as the face gets taller, the center of gravity to the ground will go up, but the face center moves up more. So relative to the face center, the center of gravity is going down. So generally, taller face, all other things equal, means lower spinning. So one other thing that you can do along those lines, other than just making the face taller or shorter, is move where the face is. So if that kind of leading edge radius is bigger and the face starts up here instead of lower down, all of a sudden your face center point is higher, and the center of gravity is lower to that. Well, with the Secret Weapon, you can't do that because you want to be able to hit off the turf as well as off a tee. Drivers, generally, we're talking about it as, hey, this is a tee club.
Yeah.
So who cares? But some of the feedback we have gotten with Secret Weapon is it's so easy to hit off the ground, and especially with the better player models and the tour models, or someone's potentially hitting it off the deck. That's something where we've tried to keep that leading edge tight to the ground with that consideration. So finding low spin in other areas, because while it is a way to drop spin by just kind of raising that face center point, we're probably better off doing it in terms of the overall usability of the driver by keeping that face low to the ground and keeping that leading edge in a way where you can use it off the deck as well. We've seen that with our tour players who like to do it. It's fun watching how tour players test drivers, because they'll test a whole bunch of different tee heights. They'll throw a couple off the ground, and it's very different than the way we would just throw it on the robot, or we would do our player testing and we tee it up the same height every single time. So I think there's certainly things we learned from the secret weapon that went into Lightning. In terms of future secret weapons or replacement for the secret weapon, no planned launch right now, but it is something that we're always prototyping. We're always trying. So I mean, there's always prototypes in the works.
Yeah.
All clubs in the bag. We're just looking for ways to improve it. That thing's been awesome. It's been so well received on tour, as well as we're hearing great feedback from our customers. That it's something we're really excited that has kind of taken off, and it's a fun club. I'm playing one as well, but no planned launch right now. But definitely something we are always continuing to look at and to prototype and see if we can improve it.
There you go, James. Your purchase is safe. You can pick it up with no fears. You've mentioned a couple times working with tour pros. How closely do you work with your tour staff throughout the whole process?
I would say that they are integral. It's crucial to kind of getting their feedback. Sometimes I don't think they know that they're part of the process where we're going, hey, hit this for me. And, they're not looped in terms of our product design and what we did different and what the prototypes are every time. Like I use the example of those Black Ops tour drivers, the Tour 2, 3, 4, 5. They're just going, hey, I'm thinking about playing this. Let me test it. And I'm going, well, what do you like about this? Do you feel like the flight's any different? Do you feel like this? Or tell me what your feedback is. So it's definitely something that's really, really helpful to see, first of all, how they interact with it and what they're looking for. What areas do they think separate two drivers, and what can they pick up on? And they're the best players in the world. So sometimes when we're testing a technology, it's like, well, we can see a difference in the robot. Is a consumer going to be able to see a difference? And I think if the tour players can't see a difference, then no one is. But
Right.
Their feedback is really helpful in terms of they play at the highest level. So especially when it comes to looks or what area of the club head there, helps them for alignment and to feel comfortable over the ball, it is definitely crucial. It's fun, being here in Scottsdale. We have some that are local that are on our staff, and we'll pop in and I'll say, hey, Mason Anderson's in, you come out and hit a few for me, tell me what you think about this, and go from there. Different people or our tour staff is great about, they'll take something out to the range and collect some feedback. So I work closely with our tour department that work with them as well. So there's a lot of just back and forth of them hitting prototypes, us getting, hearing what they have to say to kind of prove out, did this do something? Did it not? Are they seeing the ball speed gains we're seeing on the robot, and kind of validate that as a real person versus just the robot, just another testing mechanism. And sometimes you also have to completely ignore what they say, because the way tour players use equipment is totally different. They hit, their miss when they say, oh, I missed that one on the toe, it's like a quarter inch over, and it's so close, and it's just different. And the way a golf club performs at 130 miles an hour when you have Jake Knapp hitting it is a lot different than the way it performs when I'm swinging it, or the way, my dad's swinging it. So it's certainly something that is a crucial part, and they're integral in terms of getting feedback, but also sometimes you have to separate the consumer who isn't in that category, because most golfers don't fit in that category.
And so you've added your different head option in the Tour Mid. Has there been any different loft options that you guys have added across the board?
So
or are they the same from Black Ops?
They're the same, but the same and different. So the Tour, the Max model, basically we have in the Max we have 9, 10 and a half, 12. So the same as Black Ops. And then in the Tour Mid and Tour, we're going to have 8, 9, and 10 and a half. So, or we do have 8, 9, and 10 and a half. So I guess the addition of the Tour Mid, we decided to bring in that 8 degree as well for a little bit bigger of a club head that also is available in lower loft. So that's a
Yep.
little bit different. Whereas in the past, it was, if you wanted an 8-degree head, it had to be the Tour. And then in the Max Light, we're the same as we were with the Ultralight on Black Ops, where there's a 10.5 and an 11.5.
I mean, 10 different heads across the whole range is pretty impressive.
There's a lot of options there.
Yeah. And just for anyone who maybe has not used the PXG sleeve before, it's up. What is it exactly? Up -1.5, 1 degree, 2 degrees. What's the adjustability there?
You can go plus or minus 1.5 degrees. So, on the 10.5, say, you can get down to 9 or up to 12. So there is some overlap there in that you can reach the stock lofts of either of the other drivers, but for players who don't like that, when you go up in loft, the face is going to sit a little more shut, and if you go down in loft, it's going to sit a little more open. You can kind of pick which direction you want to go in terms of what fits your eye on face angle at address. And then our sleeve in the stock setting is at its most upright. So as you change the lofts, that is going to come a little bit flatter. And then we have we call the flat side of the hosel that you can do what we call like a flat plus or flat minus. So you have a reduced lie angle with that change in loft, or you can go in the stock loft. If you flip the hosel 180 to 3 degrees flatter.
Which is my dream, because I have an issue with drawing / hooking the golf ball. I just call it I call it an aggressive draw. Yeah. No, I love the flat settings that you guys have offered. Jaron has a great question. What is the most important component for those off-center strikes staying straighter and not losing as much distance? Face design, weighting inside, or what's inside / weighting?
So it's definitely a combo. So we talk a lot about forgiveness and MOI, and we a lot of times use MOI as a just way of saying forgiveness or moment of inertia, which is really just the resistance to twisting. So if you hit in the center of the face, the moment of inertia about the center of gravity doesn't matter because the head doesn't want to twist. If you hit it, say, out in the toe, the head's going to want to twist about the center of gravity. So how much it's going to rotate open and then shut, and that's what creates that gearing that causes a hook off the toe. So MOI is really, really good for maintaining ball speed across the face. So if you have a higher MOI head, the farther you move from the center, the more the club head wants to stay straight and reduce that twisting, which is in turn going to maintain ball speed, so less distance loss from a ball speed perspective. It's also going to increase the consistency of spin across the face. So that's really important because you don't want that. We're optimized around the low 2000s on a driver in terms of spin for a lot of players. Depends on your speed a little bit, but you don't want that toe strike to drop way low and kind of hit that knuckleball, or that heel strike to, or low strike to go way up and spin, because you'll lose a lot of distance that way. So those things are very crucial. And the face design in terms of, we call it the bulge and roll. So the bulge from heel to toe, how kind of rounded the face is, and the roll being top to bottom, is there to be corrective. So that kind of works hand in hand with the MOI. We want it to be make it so that it's however much that club or that ball wants to curve for the bulge. We're basically starting it more right, so the face is effectively more open on the toe at impact, right, so that it starts it right, knowing it's going to curve back. The heel the opposite, it's going to start it more left, knowing you're going to fade the ball for a righty. So that's working with the MOI, and we do a lot of work on the robot testing for, this is how the MOI of the club head is. This is how much we expect on those mishits to curve. Now let's adjust and cut down on that curvature by having that, face more open on that toe shot, as well as starting it more right, so it kind of finishes closer to the center line. And then same thing on roll, where it's more of a distance loss thing of hitting it high in the face. You effectively have more loft, so you're adding spin because you lose so much spin on high hits and you gain so much spin on low hits that we're reducing the loft low in the face to try and maintain that. So that face geometry is crucial. And one thing that maybe isn't the sexiest technology or coolest technology, but it is really crucial to that, is our robotic polishing. So the idea is every driver, it gets cast. Most drivers have a welded in face these days because sheet, anything with titanium faces, I should say, have a welded in face for the most part because sheet titanium is stronger than cast titanium. So we weld in a high strength face, and then it has to get polished because there's this big weld mark on the face. And so traditionally on a wheel by hand, trying to go like that, check it with a gauge and go, that's about right, and move on, and try to do it as consistently as possible. With robotic polishing, we're basically, there's a robot doing that exactly the same every single time, the same amount of pressure, the same amount of time on the belt, to produce as consistent as possible of a bulge and roll. So the idea is we put so much effort into the design that we want to make sure every club coming off of the production floor is exactly as the design intent was.
Right.
So it's making tolerances as tight as possible so that the way we design it, the way you tested it on the range or in your fitting is exactly what you end up with. That you don't want one head that, oh, there's a flat spot out there because it got held on the polishing belt for too long. And all of a sudden it doesn't have the right amount of correction to it. So we spend a lot of time on the manufacturing side of it, trying to make sure our tolerances are as tight as possible. So it's not just the weighting, that perimeter weighting, which is crucial, the overall design, but also the manufacturing to make sure that design is realized in the final product.
Is there, this might be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there any reason why the weld is done on the outside of the club face rather than the inside?
So, it actually goes all the way through anyway. So whether you're doing it from the outside or the inside, like if you ever looked at a cut open driver or a driver with the crown off of it, you'll still see where the weld line is because you want it to be attached all the way through to make sure it's durable. So you're still going to have kind of weld bead on the inside. So whether it's done from the inside or outside, it's going to be something you need to polish off either way.
Okay.
And it's just a lot easier and a lot cheaper and a more efficient way that gets passed on to the customer if we do it from the outside.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be a lot harder to smooth out than that from the other end. How much of a shaft guru are you?
I have a pretty good working knowledge. I for a long time did selected all the shafts for our matrix, did all of our shaft testing, did all of our kind of created our methodology behind how we test shafts. So I got a pretty good working knowledge.
Perfect. So James has a question as to what is the difference between the Project X Denali Blue and the new Frost Blue?
Ooh, okay. So they're
you got excited
models.
For this one.
I don't know. That was just an in-depth one. I think I can't recall off the top of my head the exact material differences. I know that they did a little bit of change. They kept the profiles very similar from the Denali Blue to the newer Frost generation. I believe they did add some differences in terms of on a graphite shaft, you have kind of layers of carbon fiber and in different orientations, and that's what creates the flex profile, in different areas in different orientations. And so they can also place different types and grades of carbon fiber throughout it and different materials throughout it to help create that. I believe on the Frost, they have changed it to kind of add some stability throughout it. I can't remember off the top of my head what they did to make the change, but we see from generation to generation. First of all, I think the Frost looks really cool, so that's always important with golf shafts. But I believe it was mainly the kind of stability story moving from like the improvement from Denali to the Frost. But it's definitely something that we find is a very great, they make really quality products. It's been cool to see, we believe in only offering super premium products and things that like hold up to our standards in terms of golf shafts and everything. But I think Project X is a great example of just because it's stock doesn't mean it's something that is lesser. You saw a ton of for example the hazardous and the smokes and those things uh, on the Corn Ferry Tour, on the PGA Tour, and even competing with some of those really premium, really expensive shafts. So I think they make really high end quality products, and it's someone we've partnered with closely because they're able to do that, and also, we love offering the upcharged, Ventus, the graphic design, those things that people find a lot of performance in, but also being able to offer stock options that are offer a high level of performance without breaking the bank if that's not the price point you're looking at. Or there are a lot of people who will come in and go, hang on, this stock Denali works the best for me. I don't
Yeah.
need the $300 upcharge. It's not a fit for everyone, because I think when you look at the professional golfers who get stuff for free, every single one of them would be playing the Ventus if there was one, if that was the best shaft out there and the most expensive was the best. So the fact that you see those out there on tour is a prime example of they make premium stuff.
We've spent a good 36, almost 37 minutes now talking about the drivers, and that I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fairways and the hybrid, because that's also part of the new Lightning family of clubs. So I did see one title for the fairway saying that it's potentially the longest fairway this site had ever tried or tested. So why don't you go dive into the fairways, dive into the hybrids a little bit, and then we can go into a little bit further.
Okay, so fairway woods, I'd say the biggest change from Black Ops was adding a second model. So we'll have the standard Lightning head as well as a Lightning Tour head. The Lightning head has a very squared off face, similar to what Black Ops was. And the goal on the squared off face is to create sort of a flatter sole design that allows us to push weight to the perimeter, so you can have very far perimeter heel and toe weighting without it coming way up. On a way more rounded club face, once you push weight up into the heel and toe, it goes way up higher. So that kind of square face design allows us to have a super forgiving head that's also got low CG for a high launch, low spin with that forgiveness. So I think that Lightning head is a phenomenal design from that perspective. Compared to Black Ops, it's got a thinner face, created some more deflection, which, as I said before, more deflection means more ball speed, but also higher launch and lower spin, all adding more distance. The other big change was from previous generations, and this has just been how we've designed fairway woods and hybrids, and I think the industry. Can't speak for everyone, but generally, if you said go design a fairway wood line, you'd go, okay, I'm going to design the 3-wood, and then we test it, we prototype it, we go, that's great, we love it. Okay, go take that 3-wood, add some loft, change the lie angle a little bit, add a little bit of head weight, and you have a 5-wood. Okay, add a little more loft, you have a 7-wood, and so on. With the Lightning, what we decided to do was go, hey, the amount of correction, especially on the face, like we were talking about with the way the MOI works with correcting and the bulge and roll correcting back to the center line on misshits, was always, we did it for the 3-wood and carried it into the higher lofted heads. With Lightning, we went, okay, there's room for opportunity to improve dispersion, especially on the higher lofted head. So on the 5-wood, on the 7-wood, and so on. We want to design that face geometry to be designed specifically for that head. And what we saw was a huge reduction in dispersion pattern when you started doing the robot tests across the face, because what's proper for a 3-wood isn't necessarily proper for a 5-wood, isn't necessarily proper for a 7-wood. And so by taking the time to design each one as an individual club head, as if it was the only one in the main loft, we were able to really tighten that dispersion pattern. And I think it's really helped in the high lofted heads in terms of tightening up dispersion. We also added an 11 wood, so we added the 9 wood last generation with Black
Yeah.
Ops. So we're continuing to add. It's something that, as a golfer who played a 3 wood, have dabbled with a 5 or 7 wood, I never would have thought I would have gone into anything like that. And I can't imagine it. But then we get customers that love it. So I think it's something that's fun to try and something that's different, especially for people who struggle with long irons or don't like hybrids. I think high lofted fairway woods are an interesting, different thing to try and another option in a fitting. The Tour fairway wood is going to be a lot more rounded from heel to toe compared to the Lightning. So that face shape is a lot more kind of that smiley face look. And it has 2 weights, so front and back, where the fairway wood has the 3 settings, kind of along the perimeter. The Tour has the front forward for cutting spin, and so it's generally lower spin to start, and then that front weight setting allows for it to be a spin killer for those who struggle with too high of spin. The sole change really came from Tour, so it's a deeper face overall, but less meat on the heel and toe. And Tour players were looking, they told us, for more versatility on some of them. We have some playing the standard Lightning, some playing the Tour. It's just dependent what fits your eye and what you're interested in. But from different lies, the ball above your feet, below your feet, if you're someone who likes to chop a fairway wood out of the rough, the Tour head being a little more rounded adds some more versatility that some of those better players were looking for. So that's the big difference with the Lightning Tour.
Yeah.
And then going into the hybrids. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, adding an 11 wood is just impressive. We've had a few comments here. I think what something that I appreciate, and we talked very briefly about this before we hopped on, but I'm a lefty, you're a lefty.
Yes.
Having all these different options available for left-handed golfers as well it's just cool. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to put it for a segment of the market that often gets overlooked. It's greatly appreciated.
We really do get overlooked. But no, I agree. I think it's something that it is great that we offer, and I think as long as lefties are coming and continue to be interested in buying them, then we're happy with. We've seen that segment is excited to have those offerings. So it's definitely something that is mutually beneficial. In terms of the hybrids, very similar. So there's only going to be one hybrid line, the Lightning, very similar to the Lightning fairway. It has a thinner face for a little bit more deflection. So more ball speed, higher launch. On the hybrids, we actually just do some other things internally in terms of center of gravity, because that increased deflection does, like I said, high launch, low spin. And on hybrids, we're always trying to, at least our design theory, we want to get distance through high launch and through speed on hybrids. Spin is already low, just from the industry's gone that way. Golf balls have gotten lower spin. Players who are generally going into hybrids could probably benefit from that spin. So we're trying to add distance on the hybrids without cutting spin. So trying to maintain spin while adding distance is really been the goal with the hybrids. And I think we really achieved that with these. It has that same squared face look. And that allows us to get that weight way out to the perimeter. It's a super high level of forgiveness with a very low center of gravity for, great, easy high launch. Similar to the fairway woods, added a higher loft option at 34 degrees. So for those players who are maybe a little bit slower on swing speed, struggle to get it up in the air, it's a good option. If you're, maybe someone who even a 7-iron these days is a little too much to get in the air easy. You can play as many hybrids as you could ever imagine. And it's just another option in a fitting to try. Plus, it's fun to hit. It comes out of a window that you're just not expecting on a launch monitor.
I can only imagine. I can't say I've ever hit and I guess it would be considered a 7.
It's considered
7 or 8 hybrid.
It's considered
hybrid.
an 8. I would say, because it's longer generally because it's a hybrid, and because it's,
Mm,
generally like a little more face flex than an iron gets. It probably goes a little farther and might be more like a 7 iron replacement for a player, but adjustable hosel. So, you can go up and down. The adjustable hosels that we have in our driver, same range applies on
okay.
fairways and hybrids. So I always think that that's such a crucial thing, especially when it comes down to hybrids. A lot of the times, hybrids
Yes.
don't get that technology, and it's so important for distance gapping. Um,
Yep.
you know, that the point of your hybrid isn't to go as far as possible; it's to hit a distance. You want it to go between whatever two clubs, and so sometimes different players, depending on their speed, depending on their swing, need different amounts of loft gapping for that, and it allows for another way to dial it in and make sure you're actually hitting the proper distance you want to hit consistently.
Well, and I think another I, I guess a traditional complaint with hybrids is that they have a tendency to overdraw. So if
Mhm.
you have your flat setting within your loft sleeve, you kind of negate that right then and there.
Absolutely. And then I think we also have made our hybrids uh, very neutral. I mean, I still think it's a relatively easy club to turn over, but uh, it's one of those things where I think the idea of hybrids has always been, or at least a lot of people see it as, this is for players who need help correcting from a slice. Let's make it more draw bias. Let's make it easier to turn over. And there's a lot of people out there who are mid handicaps, low handicaps who like hybrids, especially, as people age out of it. I'm 35 and I'm already like, I'm going to take my 4 iron out of the bag. It's just not as, I don't have as much heat anymore. And you know what? I think I'd be better off with something that's easy to hit in the air. And just because of that doesn't mean I want to need help turning the ball over. So we have the adjustable weight setting. So if you want to turn it over more, you absolutely can. You can go in the most upright setting. It's going to be the most left biased for a right-handed player. But yeah, we can definitely set it up to not hook, which I think is a huge add for people who a lot of times shy away from hybrids.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I gotta say the head covers look phenomenal as well. I mean, we all raved about the secret weapon head cover, but across the lineup, they just look it looks very clean, which is nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think our team did a great job with that. I think the secret weapon one was fun, and I think it was a step out, adding a little color to it, and having the little secret weapon logo there. But I think they look great. They look clean, different, but also at the same time don't pop too much. So I think that's something that just it matters. Golfers, no matter what, bag's got to look good, right?
Exactly. And PGA Open Ambassador, this is going back a little bit, but what do you see with swing weights? This is going back, sorry, to kind of more of the tour staff. Do most of the pros have similar swing weights throughout the bag, or lighter in woods and heavier into the wedges?
Um, all over the place, depending on the player. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's there's a lot of players who are lighter into the woods and they play, lighter than we make an emphasis. So our drivers are 203 grams. Swing weight's going to vary depending on what shaft. Even at our stock length, from shaft to shaft, it's going to vary quite a bit. But keeping in what we think is a reasonable D2 to D3 area, some drivers have gotten up there in terms of 205, 207, 209 kind of area of head weight, which it's a lot easier to, every time you add weight, the moment of inertia goes up. So the easiest way to beat last year's model in terms of MOI is to add head weight. Um, but that being said, we try to keep it in an area we think is beneficial for most players. Um, Tour players, a lot of them I've seen play light, like a lot, especially the older guys. A lot of them play lighter. I say older, guys that have been around for a while on tour, but still professional golfers, where they'll be a few grams lighter than that. And then, yeah, almost everyone goes a couple swing weights heavier in their wedges compared to where they are on their irons. Just Whether it's because it's always been that way or because they truly feel a difference, I don't know, but that the majority of them, that's the case. Some of the younger, stronger, the strapping young lads uh, to have some outlandish head weights on drivers, and it's the guys that just like to tinker and test things. Jake Knapp's driver is an absolute cannon. It's so heavy. So
Is it just like a
that
hammer in terms of head weight, or not head weight, but like swing weight? Like, is it just that?
he gets pretty. I don't know off the top of my head, but he gets in the D5, 6, 7
Mm,
range, which pretty stout. He also, it hurts my soul a little bit because I spend so much time doing, you know, so much design to make everything look as clean and good as possible on the driver head. Like I've spent so much time looking at this sole and making it look perfect. And even with adjustable weighting systems, he just something between his ears specifically, he loves lead tape. And I'm just like, dude, like we can do that with the weights. And he's like, need a little bit of lead tape out there. So you see him pulling it out, pull out the Sharpie to put like to flatten it down. So, I mean, players get heavy, and a lot of it, I think they're very strong. They have the opportunity to tinker with things all the time. So they've tried every swing weight under the sun, and some of them, it slows. They feel like it slows them down at the top or whatever it is. But it's there's not one thing that I would say is consistent across tour players. It's you can when one tour player comes in, we kind of know their feeling and their situation going, oh yeah, it's going to be really important. We're like that head's going to be important for them, or oh, that's great. We can get that as light as we need to for someone like Zach Johnson who doesn't like a heavy head weight. And then we can go, oh, Jake's going to be testing this like up, which our weight adjustability is great for because we can adjust a wide range.
and this might be one of the most important questions for the whole show. What are you gaming?
Oh boy. So right now I have the Tour Mid in my bag, which I love. I have always been a relatively low spin player. Kind of feel like the stereotypical lefty who hits sweeping hooks, but low spin hooks. So pretty low spin. So I could never, unless I added a bunch of loft, get into the tour model. It just wouldn't work for me, I don't think. But between the max that I probably should be playing, just for the forgiveness, and the tour mid, it just fits my eye so nicely. I just stand behind it and I'm like, this thing's gonna get launched. So I love that driver in terms of looks. It fits my eye the best, but different players feel differently about that. I have the secret weapon in, as I said earlier, so I love going to the secret weapon. I definitely use it more as a T club than I do a out of the fairway, and I think that's why I've moved towards the secret weapon, is because of the way I tend to use a fairway wood. I think it's a great option to have it more tee oriented or like tee shot oriented, that it's something I can gain a little distance, but I feel like you stand over that thing, I'm like, I can hit the fairway every time with this. It gets a little funny after this. So this is a recent, I traditionally had not played hybrids just because I think more than anything, I try to hit hybrids from bad spots. So I've always gone to a 5-wood because I think it tempers myself that I'm not going, oh yeah, out of the rough downhill lie, I can hit this hybrid. That it kind of brings me in, reels me in a little bit. So right now I'm 5-wood, and then as I was saying, from there I was 4-iron through wedge and the 0317 tees, but I think I'm playing with either a turned down 9-wood or a turned up 7-wood as a 4-iron replacement. I was messing with this the other day, and I've just gotten through my head. My 4-iron carry distance a little over 200 yards, 205, 210 ish. If I mishit it, if I'm not playing enough golf and I, mishit a 4-iron, it's carrying 185 and not 205, and I have problems. And I was messing with the 9-wood because I wanted to try it, and I'm like, this carries 205, and if I miss it, it carries 202. So maybe this is a better play for me. So that's it's something fun to play with and something I never would have considered. But I think I love the 9 wood. I'm thinking of playing it like short with a heavy shaft, turned down a little bit, and it's more of a 4-iron replacement. But just a fun, different fitting option.
Very cool. Putter?
Putter, right now, I have our Mustang ZT in.
Okay.
I really like the idea of I've loved like the zero torque concept, and so I did some putter design years back at PXG. But my theory has always been, I think there's a great spot for zero torque. I think it's important for a different feel for different players, but that doesn't mean it totally replaces toe hang. There's in the same way drivers, some people prefer a fade bias driver, some people prefer a draw bias driver. I think there's a lot of people who can benefit from the zero torque who are trying to feel like, oh, I can hold this lighter. The face wants to square up. This is perfect for me. There's always going to be a spot for that more, biased anti-pull, toe hanging putter and things like that. But my big problem was I just don't get along with mallets. I don't putt well for whatever reason with mallets. I've always played a blade and I always enjoyed a blade. So taking that zero torque technology and putting it into a smaller package was something that was very exciting for me to give a go.
It looks really good. And I will say my favorite putter to use in VR golf is the PXG Allen.
Nice.
I swear, like it is so easy to line up in VR golf. All the guys, there's a whole group of us that play, and we all use the PXG Allen. So
love that.
Hopefully it stays for a long time there.
I think there's no plan for that to go anywhere, but I think it's pretty easy to line up in reality golf.
Real life. Yes.
My problem's always like those big long lines. I'm great. I think they're so helpful for lining it up. I always just struggle personally with standing over the ball. I go to take a stroke, and that big line, now that I arced my stroke a little bit, is pointing the other direction, and it always bothered me. And it's because I'm a head case. But in the same way, I've stopped trying to draw a line in my golf ball because it's always bothered me that I never think it's quite on the line. So I'm just don't line up the golf ball and let it go kind of guy. But it's obviously that's not for everyone. So.
Awesome. So we're closing in on an hour here. So my last question is going to be, what are you just most proud of, what are you most proud of for the Lightning lineup?
I think what I'm most proud of is the max driver. I think it's, people they hear max, they hear 10K, and they go, that's super forgiving. It's going to be spinny and shorter, but am I willing to give that up for the forgiveness and more fairways and all that? It like people when they hit it, they don't believe it. It's like, oh, this is a low spinning 10K driver. This thing we're able to game the speed. We're able to create a driver that is low spinning and high launching and forgiving. And I think it fits so many people and is something that everyone should absolutely try because it is just awesome. And I just love, I think that driver is a big step forward for us. And I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it and see the difference when they hit it. And as I say that, I think I should go back to trying that driver instead of the Tour Mid.
Well, I'm sure you have a few heads that you can play around with there to demo out as even lefties. There you go. Caleb, I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking about the new PXG Lightning lineup. It's a very exciting selection of clubs with a great variety across the board. And I'm excited to hear from our members when they go and hit them and go into a PXG store and start hitting them because it sounds like you have something really special here. And now I got to do my own research and try and find the closest location to me so that I can go in for a fitting myself.
Awesome. Well, it's been fun. Thank you for having me. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to answer the questions.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll be back next Wednesday with a scheduled normal call get together. And yeah, we'll maybe we'll have some follow-up questions for Caleb later on down the line. So thank you for
Yeah,
joining
just let me
us,
know.
and we'll chat soon.